Hello, my name is Jerry Wise, and I'm the director for the Center for Self-Differentiation at Family Tree Counseling on the north side of Indianapolis in Indiana. I work with clients in my office and via internet for those who need coaching and help. And this video is entitled Mission Impossible, the Parentified Child. Sounds like a big word, parentified. Basically, it just means a child who's been turned into a parent. And certainly children are not supposed to be parents. This video is about a dynamic not often addressed or talked about because it's a difficult area, and a lot of people I find kind of like to avoid talking about dysfunctional things. But childhood parentification is a pretty common problem, and it occurs with lots of folks. Children experience this by living in a role reversal with their parents. The parents are immature or underfunctioning or dysfunctional to the level in which they need their children to act as their caregivers or parents to the parents. And this can go far as emotionally, that they can't function very well emotionally, so the children must provide that emotional neediness and fill up their bucket as parents. Or it can go all the way to the functional and physical ways in which kids actually take care of parents, such as, 11-year-old boys driving their dad home from the bar, or mom sending the child out to go find the father. Those kinds of things, and that really causes lots of problems for adulthood when these children grow into adulthood. So how do I know if I'm a parentified child? Well, ask yourself the following questions. Were you made to feel responsible for your parents' welfare, well-being, or feelings? Was your parent indifferent, or did he or she ignore your feelings most of the time? Were you often blamed, criticized, devalued, or demeaned by your parents? When your parent was upset, were you often the target for those negative feelings? Did you feel like you were always trying to please your parent without ever succeeding? Did you feel like your parent took all of the credit for your successes, or they lived their lives through you as the child? Did they ever make comments like these? Don't you want me to feel good? And this is the parent to the child. You make me feel like a failure when you ... Why don't you care about how I feel? If you really cared about me, you would do what I want you to do. And those are just a few statements. There are hundreds of others that are made. Here's a subtle or often disguised example of parentification. It's common to hear a divorced mother who proudly declares that her son, who is 10 years old or younger, has become the man of the house. A divorced father boasts about how his daughter has assumed care of his apartment or house, or meal preparations or housework, etc. Extended family members often remark, well, how cute that is, these children's grown-up behavior is. How very cute that is. When I see it, I don't see it as cute. I see it as sad and troubling that it's going to be a problem for them later on in life. Many of us grew up as parentified children. ACOAs grow up over-functioning when parents underfunction. Many others provided emotional relief or needs to their parents who were unhappy, lonely, or had dysfunctional marriages. Many were abused to deal with the anger and the rage of their parents because the parents did not deal with their own issues from their own childhood. Ann Koss, in her article, Robbing Your Children of Childhood, Parentified Children Suffer Later, states this. Basically, children learn about their world through experience. When they are in a home where the parent is responsible, they are free to explore and make mistakes, while having the safety net of the parents to fall back on. If they are parentified, children feel restricted and unable to freely explore their environment. They worry they cannot afford to make mistakes, that they must be perfect. The burden is enormous and far too heavy for a child. Children who feel responsible for their parents can become overwhelmed. This can lead to depression or frustration or self-doubt or even acting out. Many parents can underfunction, causing their children and forcing them to overfunction. Then the child acts out because of the dilemma and the conflict that they're in, and then the parents blame them for acting out and for how bad they're making them feel because they acted out. And I see that all the time. This experience of parentification, as Ann Koss goes on to say, this can lead to depression or frustration and self-doubt because they feel incompetent to do what is expected of them. Children are asked to do more than they can do. Those who grew up as parentified children grew up too soon. One client, Sarah, I'll call her, discussed her parents and how unhappy they were with their lives and with each other. Dad would check out. Mom was left with her excessive neediness and loneliness and depression. The daughter believed that she should be there for her mother because her mother was lonely and sad and angry and needy. So Sarah thought it was her job to take care of her and to make sure she was not lonely or disappointed in her. She didn't want her mother to feel any more pain. But this just made Sarah suppress her own needs, not live her childhood as a child, and created a Sarah who was highly critical of herself throughout the rest of her life up to her adulthood. Dad underfunctioned, Mom underfunctioned, so Sarah stepped up to fill the gap and overfunctioned for the family and thus a parentified child. As an adult, Sarah uses her parents' happiness as the ruler for how she measures how worthy she is as a person, how well she's doing by measuring how well or how she makes her parents happy. This drives her crazy, and she feels she cannot stop this. And it can feel very obsessive, and we feel like we can't stop it. The good news is we can. The bad news is we feel that obsession, but it is recoverable. When she does not measure up, she feels horrible and very self-critical of herself. So what is the experience of being an adult of a parentified childhood? Basically, we have shame-based lives. We have guilt-based lives. We live guilt-based lives. Any sense of self feels selfish and appears and we believe is selfish. We can have intense anger that has either been suppressed or depressed or is deeply buried, or we can be angry a lot but we just hold it all in. We are often highly reactive because we now have internalized our parents' criticism or disappointment in us, and also we feel anger as well because of that. We have very little self-care or knowledge of how to do self-care for ourselves because we didn't learn how to play and just be children and just explore the world and explore myself growing up. I had to focus on parents and focus on their needs. So I didn't learn much about me growing up as a parentified child. We tend to be overfunctioners and highly reactive to those who underfunction. We're often hypervigilant about external measures of how I'm doing. Do I look okay? Did I give that presentation well enough? Would this have upset my mother or my father? A lack of internalized measurement for how I am doing and what I want or need. We have a lack of those. We don't have an internal ruler. All of our rulers and measuring sticks are all out there, and they're held by other people. We often have major trust issues because love, acceptance, and validation feels like it can always be withdrawn at any moment for any behavior, any thought, or any feeling. And now what's even sad, even any behavior that is assumed or thought that might be there or feeling that is projected onto us. That others can withdraw their acceptance and love and positive regard from us because of what's in their head, which then strips us and rips away how we feel about ourselves. Intense feelings are the real cause of any problem. In other words, we have a real intense belief that we are the real cause of any problem, and that we're the cause even of the weather. I mean, it's our fault. We have over-ownership of problems and causes. And for example, we think about our marriage that's failing, we go, well, it's probably 90% my fault and 10% theirs. We over-own who's at fault here because we don't have a very good GPS or gyroscope to know or to sense what is the proper balance of my responsibility and their responsibility, because we didn't learn that growing up. What we learned growing up is everything is my responsibility. That's what parentified children learned. Therefore, since you over-own the problems, you therefore are the only solution. Fix you and the problem can be fixed. We keep trying and trying, but no matter how we try or how we try to fix ourselves, adapt ourselves, change ourselves, we try to be the solution, but it just doesn't fix it. And this is why I call it Mission Impossible. That parentified children are on the Mission Impossible. And that's the name of this video. We have been instilled with the belief that we are overpowerful also. We cause others' feelings to happen. We cause others to reject or discount us. Therefore, we are powerful enough to make this stop. This belief is the omnipotent belief, I'm all-powerful, of parentified children. I can make my parents happy, and I can make them feel unhappy. I am that powerful. Now, parentified children won't say that, but that's actually the experience they feel. Because if their parent, for example, Sarah, if her parent feels upset, she feels responsible for it. She has the power to either make her mother happy or make her mother unhappy. That's way too much power, and it's not even true. While doing, our reactivity for parentified children, when we become adults, our reactivity is emotionally based living. And it's emotionally based living, emotionally based thinking, and an emotionally based paradigm. It's not rationally based, it's not thinking based, it's emotionally based. We put too much stock in our feelings. While doing everything to be accepted, we at the same time feel like a victim all the time. We are always the victim of our own thoughts, our own emotions, and our own beliefs, and the thoughts, beliefs, and emotions of others. Well, you might say, well, Jerry, how so? Do you mean by that? Well, we are living to try to please others, and when they are not satisfied or made happy by our lives or our behavior, we feel very guilty, extremely guilty. And so we stay engaged in trying harder, to do more, To stop that would create way too much guilt. If I just let my parents' feelings go and let them have their own feelings and not be responsible for their happiness or unhappiness, that would create way too much guilt for me. And since I can't handle the guilt, I got to stay in the role of trying to manage their feelings, which is, of course, a codependent dynamic. To give up the belief that I can control someone else's happiness would cause too much guilt. So I then become a victim of my own guilt feelings. We continue the pattern into our adult relationships. We choose partners who thrive on our guilt feelings, who thrive on us taking 80% of the responsibility for the relationship and how it's working. We find partners who offer and withdraw acceptance, love, sex, nurturing, approval at their own whim or based on our doing what they expect of us. So what can we do? Well, we can begin to work on not feeling guilty about our situation. We learn to observe and learn more about our situation growing up and about how we function in our relationships now. Becoming an observer, not an absorber, as I've mentioned in other videos. Being parentified was not your fault. You did not cause it. Learn to have a greater tolerance for experiencing your guilt. Meaning guilt is a normal feeling for you. And saying I will feel it when I do that thing that is counterintuitive or goes against what feels normal for me. I'm going to feel guilt, but I don't have to act on it. Guilt won't hurt me, just like anxiety won't hurt you. Guilt won't hurt me, it is just uncomfortable. This unhealthy guilt should not guide me in my decisions. Learn to be a kid again. Watch my video, It's Never Too Late to Have a Happy Childhood. That might be a good video for parentified children. Reach out for help versus being all the help to others. Don't isolate, find support. Forgive yourself for any negative feelings you hold about your childhood or your parents and find ways to process them. Learn healthy, normal ways to parent your own children. Read books and seek therapy. Work on resolving your anger and grieving your lost childhood. Make your goal to be a mediocre person and not a perfect person. To be a human person and not a superhuman person. Begin to believe you are not that powerful and cannot make people happy and cannot make people feel a certain way. Whether they feel angry, joyful, mean, happy, accepting, disappointed, I don't make them feel that way. That is their choices. That's what's going on inside them. Become more selfish. And again, this is how it feels when we begin to do self-care. Self-care for parentified children always feels selfish. The same is true for codependents or ACOAs. Once you start doing self-care, it feels very selfish to you. Like I'm almost narcissistic when I do that. But that's because our paradigm is so bent that normal self-care seems like selfish self-care. If you want more help with the effects of growing up as a parentified child, if you want to learn how to grow up within relationships, your family of origin, in your marriage, at work, I hope that you'll contact me and make an appointment. My contact information is on the screen. Please join our YouTube channel, Family Tree Counseling YouTube channel. If you want more resources or a complete listing of over 100 of my videos on YouTube, send me an email. I'll be happy to respond to you. I'll send them out to you for free. I want to thank you today for watching the video and joining me today, and I hope you have a great day.